Hey guys, it's Amos, also known as Quarterboy here,
bringing you the top 5 tips and tricks
for you to get better at Mobile Legends. Now, some of these tips and tricks might sound simple, but I can promise you that they will be effective as long as you start applying them to your daily regimen of just training or playing to get better. Now, the very first tip we'll be going into is actually understanding is the key to improving. Well, this is to say that before you go into a game with a specific hero to train it, what you want to be doing is actually to go read up on the hero, what its passive does, what all of its skill does, what are some of the possible hero combos you can do before going it and practicing it. Just like any science that you try to study, there's always a theory and then there is a practical, right? So it's actually the exact same for just Mobile Legends in general. Before you actually go and practice, you definitely want to study the theory behind the hero, and this will just help you get better and better as time goes by. Now, the second tip we'll be going into is repetition is the key to mastery. Well, why do I say this? I want you to actually do this experiment for yourself, right? So just take 2 days of your time. The first day, I want you to play 10 different heroes across 10 different games and then see what you learn from it. Day number 2, I want you to spend all 10 of your games in that single day playing the exact same hero. Well, the results you get might surprise you. On day number 1, you can actually see and experience 10 different heroes, but you're not really improving in any of them. However, in day number 2, when you're going into game after game, with the memory fresh from the previous game in your head, you can actually improve and understand the hero to a much deeper level by simply repeating and repeating. That's why I say repetition is key to mastering anything. The third tip for you is actually keeping an individual journal to help you keep track of your progress every single day. This does not only apply to those who are aspiring to go pro. If you're just looking to get good at ranked games, this works for you as well. So all you have to do is just measure and pen down your daily progress, and also add on what are your daily goals and objectives before even starting the training. So you can look back and see, at the end of the day, have you achieved these goals? This grants you a very systematic approach, and you will be able to see gradual changes and gradual improvements with your play every single day.
Tip number 4, jungle pathing. Now this tip is more technical and detailed and can only apply to the player who is playing the role jungle in the game, which means you are the guy that is bringing retribution and you're in charge of taking turtles and lords, etc. So for the role jungle, this is a very basic concept, which is jungle pathing, which allows you to be as efficient as you can, at the same time be at the right place at the right time when you are needed by your team. Jungle pathing, as the name suggests, basically is the path that your character takes in the jungle from farming camp to camp, knowing your end destination. So what I mean by that is that if right now your destination or your goal is to clear out your jungle for the sake of clearing out your jungle, then you are probably not that advanced of a player. However, if you want to get better at the game, you need to start having plans before you even start clearing your next red buff or your next blue buff. You need to think 3 or 4 camps ahead. Example, what I want you to do is right now, if you are going to start the game off taking the blue buff and you want to gank bot lane, your pathing should lean towards starting the blue buff, perhaps clearing the mid wave, then clear out your red jungle starting from the red buff because it increases your damage on the other jungle camps in the red jungle. Then you'll probably reach level 4 before you get to the bot lane and you can pull off the gank. But at the same time, before you even started your blue buff, you already visualized the gank at the bot lane. So you know your end destination, and thus you actually adjusted, or you can choose your jungle pathing to save the most amount of time yet get the most amount of farm, and still getting your end goal gank off in the bot lane. So just following the same concept or example that I gave, I want you to start playing the game with a purpose in mind, the end goal in mind. Is your end goal invade in the enemy blue jungle? Or is it at the turtle? Or is it at the lord? Or is it to push a tower? Now all these end goals will then determine the path that you will take from the start point to the middle point to the end point. Once you have mastered and learned this, you'll realize that you have become a lot better of a jungler than you already are today. Now the final point that I'll be giving you guys is itemization. Now itemization is a very important concept because there are so many different items in the game. There is the tier 1 basic item, then there's the tier 2 item which is like the intermediate version, and then the completed and the final version of every single item. So because of that, understanding exactly what kind of items you're supposed to build in the different situations will be crucial to improving at your game, even if you're trying to climb up the ranks. So I'll be splitting this into 3 different parts where I'll be covering some tips and tricks with each level of items. Now the very first layer that we'll be going into is the tier 1 items, and the first item we'll be covering is called the jungle knife. So the jungle knife basically grants you additional damage, as well as it gives you more experience and gold when you're clearing jungle monsters. Now this all sounds good until it also has a downside, in which you can only get it when you have the retribution spell, but the other side is that you will get reduced gold and experience from lane minions. So if today you are playing a jungler or a hyper carry and you want to clear the mid wave before clearing your first jungle camp, I do recommend you hold on to your starting gold, such that so you don't start off the game by buying your jungle equipment immediately. You just want to be holding your starting gold. After clearing the wave and getting full gold and experience from the lane wave, you get your jungle knife and then you start farming your jungle for the additional gold and XP from the jungle monsters. Now the next tier 1 item that I will be sharing with you guys is actually the mana necklace. Now the mana necklace is a very underrated item and actually provides a lot of value for the price that it comes for. So it only costs 120 gold, and if you sell it afterwards when you do not need it anymore, it comes back at a price of around 70 gold. So you're practically only spending 50 gold per mana necklace. And here's what it does, right? So in the early game or the mid game, you are playing a hero that is very mana intensive, where you are just casting abilities after abilities. There will be a time where you run out of mana, you need to reset, go back to base, get back your mana before you can come out and pressure the enemy again. However, just getting 1 or 2 mana necklaces solves this problem. With these 2 mana necklaces, you'll never ever have to go back to base, and it only comes for a price of 50 gold per piece after you buy it and sell it when you no longer need it. Now the last tier 1 item that I'll be sharing is called the roaming mask. So the roaming mask, basically the effect that it has is that it will stop you from sharing any gold or experience from your teammates, such that you will give them the maximum amount of scaling as well as the gold. However, its passive effect is that if you are on the lowest gold in your entire team, every 4 seconds you will passively get some gold. Because of this effect, not only your tank can get this, if you realize that as a side laner or as a support, you are really having a tough time because opponents are targeting you too much and your gold is at the bottom of your team, you can actually afford to get a roaming mask to help you get your gold up to your second lowest gold of your team. That itself is a very important and useful fact that you can use in your games today. Now we will be moving on to category 2, where we'll be talking about tier 2 items. So tier 2 items, we have 3 more for you. The first one being Deadly Blade. What Deadly Blade does is basically all your attacks on the opponent will reduce their healing or shielding effects by a certain percentage. And it is very value for money when your opponent team composition has a lot of heroes with high regeneration like Uranus, or if they have a lot of shielding like Harith or Esmeralda. Hence this item is value for money as soon as you see a lot of shielding or healing from your opponent team. Now the next item we'll be going into detail is the Dreadnought Armor. Now Dreadnought Armor is a tier 2 defense item that you can purchase in the shop that provides so much value for money that if you're not buying it right now against the right heroes, you're just wasting your time. So for Dreadnought Armor, what it does is it gives you base armor that's already good. At the same time, it's cheap, and the final effect is that when opponents hit you, their damage gets reduced by up to 12% Thus, this item is a must buy early game or in the mid game when you're fighting assassins or high burst marksmen. The last item from category 2, which is the tier 2 items that we'll be talking about, is Magic Blade. Now, as long as you're playing a carry hero that your damage predominantly is physical damage, this item is really good when the opponent has a few magic damage carries, such as mages or magic damage based assassins. Now, Magic Blade, what it does is it gives you physical damage, at the same time also gives you magic defense. That's already good, but its passive is even crazier. When your hero falls below 30% HP, it grants you a shield that scales with your level as well. So this is a really value for money, and it's a must buy when you are a physical damage carry hero playing against a magic damage hero. Now, the final category that we'll be talking about is the completed items section. And in this category, there's only one real item trick that I want to teach, because it is so underrated and literally no one knows about it. Alright, so here it goes. The item is Immortality, and Immortality is already a popular item, so this trick will just make it even more popular and even stronger. So here is how it goes. During the respawn time or the resurrection time, when your Immortality pops, you can actually sell that item for another item, so that you will respawn with basically a 7th item. It is very powerful because this 7th item can be something to delay even more time for your team to come and back you up, such as Winter Truncheon, Wind of Nature, or Rose Gold Meteor. Now, all of these items used in different situations can give you a longer lifeline. Because of that, learning this trick will allow you to basically have a 7th item and have your team be able to back you up in situations that if you didn't do this trick, you would already be long dead. With that said, that's all from me today, and I'm sure all of you are really excited to go and try out all these tips and tricks which I just mentioned above. So I won't hold you back any further. Go on, have fun with these tips and tricks, and become a better player in Mobile Legends today.